to see if we could get after iron. All right. They had suffered the loss of a couple of really big swimmers that weren't able to come because of sickness. So all of a sudden, it's the old adage, there's a little opening. So maybe we can knock them off. So that was our goal going in. And then the jackpot sort of hurt us a little bit eventually, right? But we were able to stay pretty close for quite a while.
And we'll get into that. By the way, after day one, it seemed like you guys almost had it in the bag. But Dorina was able to turn it around for day two. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where it's nice to have sit down and think about it a little bit. And myself and Dylan would point the meet out and take a look. And we've had a historic, very good first day, and our second day is not as strong. So we had to be up after the first day, and it did look like we had a shot, but we knew that Dorina's team was going to come smoking down the rails on that second day.
Thank you, Byron. And with that, let's hop into the first event, the women's 100 meters butterfly. And my first question, and first the ground goes to you, John. You had Madeline Banich and Anastasia Shkurda race for you in this event. Madeline swam at 56:41 and Anastasia swam at 56:03. Going into this event, how concerned were you? Because obviously you don't have the superstar of Sarah Sjöström, but at the same time, Madeline and Anastasia were performing absolutely great in the past matches. Were you concerned at all?
Yeah, well, actually, again, the points come up from a lot of events. So normally it's not that big of a concern when you actually lose a couple of points on one of them, if you have enough, let's say, velocity on the whole thing. The thing that we were sure about, because of the recruiting process that James and Tom actually managed so well, I think one of the most valuable gains of the league was Maddie Banich, because normally she was there, but she wasn't up there yet. And this event actually gave her the chance to shine up and basically show her that, she's part of the top level swimming, really. And she got really fast down to 55s and even the 50 flies, she actually showed up pretty well. And Anastasia, on the other hand, I've been following her for a very long time, since the juniors, European juniors, world juniors and everything. Man, she's locked on target too. I'm telling you, she's going to be one of the big ones. And her coach and her are actually pretty well. So I think that, both of them are going to be in that field for a very long time.
And John, another question about Anastasia, because she was present last season, but it seemed like, she struggled a little bit when there were the big names present. It seemed like she faded just slightly. But it seemed like this season, everything totally changed. And honestly, it seemed like from this particular one fly, really boosted her self-confidence, or was she already there before this?
Yeah, I truly believe that it's a huge process. Her racing in the international swimming for a very long time. And also in the beginning of the ISL, when she started racing with Sarah in the and starting from there, she do something with it. So age and experience.
Let's look forward to seeing Anastasia
definitely
dominate in the ISL in the future.
Yeah.
And Ivan, also talking about that domination that you mentioned and the consistency that Anastasia Shkurda and Vani show on the previous two matches, the 7 and 6 match respectively for Energy Standard, Byron, Louise Hanson, we were discussing on the previous match analysis that she a very young swimmer. I believe she is 20 years old. She was present at the Canadian Olympic trials. She was a finalist in the 100 butterfly 5 years ago now, in 2016, when she was 15 years old. So very, very young. So I want you to talk about her performance during the ISL, because she finally was able to drop to the 56. she was doing a lot of 57 slows. So what do you think about her and her career as far as she has gone right now?
Exactly, and I totally agree with you, Bruno. It's so interesting that the drop happened during this COVID season, where it seems like all the odds were stacked against her.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting story. Rebecca's, she actually attends the University of Toronto and is part of my varsity team. But she's also at the National Center Olympic year, what we call redshirting in North America, when you sit out your varsity season and you just train full time. She's from a small town in this was her really coming out party, if you really think about it, because she did win the 200 freestyle as well, and was medaling in every meet we had. And the 152 200 freestyle is a world-class time. So her goal obviously is to make the Olympic team, and her goal coming into the ISL was can do my best time and get under 57. And as Bruno said, she went 56.8, which was quite nice. And in the semis, I believe we got a 56.5 out of her, down a week after this. So she's really come on well. She's a good size. She's almost 6 feet, 5'11", and has really been under the radar for a couple of years. So this is one of the things that Canada's got going for it.
Yeah, we were really happy to see her actually go. She wasn't enjoying it fully. Tom, Rushton, and James Gibson, they're all very well connected. And the thing is, especially for the North America part, Tom is very active. And as soon as, there are some openings, of course, everybody's following the international swimming. And again, everybody has their own parts. So Tom actually did a very good job actually picking her.
Anastasia Skurdai, Louis Hansen. These are big names in terms of 100 meters butterfly. And Ranomi, though an excellent 50 meters butterfly swimmer, is not quite known for her 100 butterfly. Did you ever consider putting, for example, Melanie Heineke in this race, who potentially wouldn't swim at 57.2 like Ranomi did, but would have probably not lost that many points? She probably would have received her 3-4 points for this event, and you could have probably saved up some energy for Ranomi. Did you ever consider this? Because Ranomi is an athlete you can use quite a bunch. She can swim all the relays, she can race the skins, she can race all the sprints.
This is a really, really good question, and actually brings up a lot of points towards how we put together the lineup for each race. We didn't just consider it, but the first match we had Emily and Melanie swim the 100 fly. So Ranomi didn't swim it in the first match, but we found out that Melanie needs to stay with the 50s. We tried her on the 100 fly, we tried her on the 100 freestyle. She's the specific sprinter that needs to stay with a 50, because the 100, even though she can swim a good 100, but it just completely destroys her. Okay, so we learned after the first match. fastest. She's still world-class 100 flyer, but 100 is not her best. But if you look at the lineup, for her, we have 100 fly, we have 4x100 freestyle, and then right after 50 free. So out of these three, we thought, and it was actually, she was part of this decision-making process, it's better if she swims the 100 fly in the beginning and then take the 4x1 freestyle off and then do a really good 50 free, rather than, you know, skip the 100 fly and then have a really quick turnaround with the 4x1 free and the 50 free. So that was kind of, these are the two things about Melanie and Ranomi's lineup schedule that resulted in this this duo of Ranomi and Emily.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. And does Ranomi at all, like, does she struggle in the same way that Melanie does, that the 100 fly sort of takes a lot out of her, or is she able to recover?
I think she can recover better.
Okay.
Obviously, both of her 100 free and 100 fly are much better than Melanie's, and she can handle it more. So it's probably, and she had the experience, you know, she has a lot of experience on how to do back-to-back events, while Melanie doesn't yet, especially not if there's 100 in the picture as well. So Ranomi, we figured that probably Ranomi was the better choice for that. And, you know, it comes down to the athlete. Whenever we make these lineup choices, we try to speak with the specific athletes and ask them about how they feel about it. Because at the end of the day, they are the ones who have to do it and who have to be okay with it. And Ranomi is someone who's so experienced and knows herself and knows what she can handle and what she cannot. And she thought this was the best decision. We agreed. So we stayed with this.
Totally fair. And I can say this was a bad decision. By the way, excellent performance from Ranomi, 57.2. I believe that's the fastest she was in the ISL so far.
Yes,
Yeah.
and for the second, the 58.0 on the second match, she actually had her goggles filled with water after the start. So that's why it was a clear outlier in the results, and that was the reason.
Okay, thank you, Dorina. And with that, let's move to the next event, and it is the male 100 meters butterfly. And once again, I want to ask my first question to Dorina, because you had Ramon Clance and Nicolas Santos swim for you in this event. Ramon swam at 51.29, and Nicolas swam a 50.18. And I just want you to make a little bit of a comparison between Melanie and Nicolas, because I believe both of them are quite heavy 50 swimmers. 100 is a bit of a stretch for them. But then Nicolas Santos, a person who's already 40 years of age, and it seems like once you're 48 years of age, the recovery is much tougher for you. Yet he seemed like he had no issue whatsoever doing this one fly and then performing in the 50s after. Could you access the performance of Nicolas Santos here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to start with Nicolas. Obviously, he did unbelievable things, as you said, at the age of 40, and he kept improving his best time on the 100 fly, and he actually went down to, now he was 50.1 here, but he went all the way down to
49.6, I believe.
49.6. Yeah, and he came in outside of 50 points. So that's crazy that at the age of 40, as the season progressed, he kept improving his best time. So I don't even know how to describe that performance. Obviously, it's unbelievable. So we were just happy to see that. Again, he has more experience than Melanie, and I think he can, regardless of his age, he can handle the 100 more than Melanie. Melanie is more of even more of a 50 swimmer than Nicolas, in my opinion. And Nicolas did a really good job with. He swam quite a lot of events. So as you say, recovering from the 100 fly to the 50, but then doing the relay as well and doing a good job of it. Yeah, at the end of the season, when he was getting close to world record on the 50, we tried to give him a bit more rest. He asked for it, and he was right. but we obviously couldn't give him the whole day off. But we tried to give him as much rest as possible, but at the same time, we needed him.
Mhm. Yeah, makes sense. And Dorina, could you outline anything Nicholas does special? I don't know, that separates him from the rest? Because truly, doing your PBs at the age of 40 is something exceptional. So he must be doing something special, right?
I think it's mental. It's all a mental game at this point. Obviously, he has his routines down, everything that he learned along his long career. He learned what works for him and what doesn't. That's a huge plus that he has that experience. But after that, it's all a mental game, and he's clearly on top of it.
Okay, thank you, Dorina. And Byron, a question to you. You had Finley Knox and Ryan Shane perform for you in this event. Finley swam a 52.06 and Shane swam a 50.95. Two great performances, but it seemed like you were especially in that one IM. Could you analyze this a little bit?
Yeah,
he wasn't always on the front page. You know what I mean? He wasn't on those top 3, two positions that Nicolas and Chad were here. So tell me about the mental aspect of Gregor and also the one of Chad Leclos, because he seems as a captain that always motivates his team and gets the job done.
Good. Chad, seriously, I can talk like hours about him because he's one of the athletes that I'm
results back. I mean, he was almost 2 seconds off his PB in the one fly at the start of the season.
Yeah.
But in my perspective, and you might not agree with me with that, but match 7 seemed the turnaround point for Chad. And after match 7, he started drastically dropping everything. And by the final, you had Kylie Massa and Lisa Braddon represent you in this event. Kylie swam at 201.76, Lisa swam at 201.61. In my opinion, Lisa and Kylie were the favorites for this event.
I would agree.
However,
Emily
it
is
seemed-
Emily.
yeah, exactly. It seemed like Emily really turned things around from your last match. Because last match, Kylie and Lisa were successful in defeating Emily, but not this time. And I will ask this question to Can also, why this happened, but I want to first hear this from you. Why do you think Emily was successful in this match? And did anything go wrong for Kylie and Lisa? Were you satisfied with their performance?
Nothing really went wrong. I think Emily just rose. That was one of Emily's better times in the last little while. She has
Yeah, former NCAA or actually ISL experience definitely helps in terms of the team aspect, to understand that, and to understand the rhythm and the pace of the meet. We could see it. We had on the team, we had a lot of swimmers who never been part of the ISL or NCAA. So it took some time for them to understand how this goes. But thankfully, we had some swimmers who had the experience, either both NCAA and ISL or ISL last season, and they could help. Team aspect. To be honest, yes, I swam the 200 backstroke as a swimmer, but I think both Zavina and Ustinova has enough experience in the 200 backstroke on the international scene that exactly what to do. And they consistently brought this 204 from Zavina and 206 from Ustinova. So they were exactly where we wanted them to be, or where we expected them to be. Obviously, their best times are quite a lot better than this. To escape from those 7 and 8 and the jackpot. So this was okay for us.
And actually, that leads me to another question, Dorina. Knowing that you were going to face Emily Seebohm, Lisa Bratton, Kylie Mass, Amy Bill.
We knew that she could go maybe a bit better than 206. She was 206 on the first match. And I knew, and she knew as well, that she could go down maybe to 204, but not better than that. And in this match, it was not worth it for her to swim a 204 and get fifth. We used her in the 4x100 freestyle and then the 2 IM. So we thought that was more important, because unfortunately this season she could not have gone 201.
Thank you, Dorina. And by the way, I think it was a genius decision from you guys. I think it was for sure the right choice not to have Dorina swim the 2 back. And it seemed like it paid off later in the meet, but we'll get into that. Yeah. But I just want to have one more question to Dorina before I let you go for this 2 back. You took quite a bit of a gamble with recruiting Daria Zevina, in my opinion, because she was out of swimming for a while. She was married. It seemed like swimming was a past chapter in her life. Then she comes back, and no one knows what shape she's in. But you guys took the risk of recruiting her. Why? And were you happy with your decision?
At the end, we were happy about it. She was a really, really good team player, and we really thought that she did the best she could do. She was consistent. Maybe in the 2 back, it was only the last match where she fell off a bit. But she was consistently bringing this 204. And you don't always get your best choice, and you try to go for the second best or the third best. I honestly don't remember how we ended up with Zavina, but we were definitely happy. She was really part of the team. She brought a lot to the team other than her consistent swim. So to be honest, I don't remember.
Okay. Possibly Katinka had a say in that, because I remember back in the day, Zavina and Katinka would have battles in the 2 back.
Exactly. Yeah. And I actually remember a meet in 2016 in Italy where Katinka was part of Energy Standard, actually. It was obviously not ISL, and they were teammates, and I remember as well them.
It was set to Cola, right?
No, actually it was an Energy Standard Cup.
Okay, yeah. In Lignano, of course.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And they were actually teammates, and yeah, they were swimming a lot against each other at that time. So we knew she had the experience. With this whole COVID situation and how recruiting goes, a lot of times you take a gamble because you just don't know. You know, you try to make the best decision possible, and then you see what happens.
Thank you, Dorina. And we're actually getting overwhelming requests from the fans towards you, Dorina. And I'm not sure why they're asking this. I feel like I don't know something about you, but here it comes. Do you have any specific tips with covering your nose for the two-back?
No, actually, I never used a nose clip. So
Are you one of these people who are capable of doing that?
yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I
don't want to show it, but you showed it. I think that's enough. Yes.
That is enough. People can't see me on their screens, but I think they understood what I mean. Covering your nose with your upper lip. Thank you, Dorina.
Yeah, I can do that, and that's what I did. No clip on it.
And Can, a question to you. Susanna Jakobos and Emily Seebohm racing for you in this two-back. Susanna swam at 2:07.57 and Emily swam at 2:01.56. Number one question, what changed for Emily? Because judging from the previous match for the two-back, even in terms of her walkout, she was a lot more tense compared to this match. It seemed like she was having a lot more fun in this match, and it seemed like it paid off. She got first. And my second question is, why no Marie-Sophie Harvey? Why Susanna Jakobos?
Okay. Again, with M, it's she's again one of those athletes that has been
And my first question goes to you, Byron. Sergey Fesikov and Brent Hayden for you in this event. 21.83 from Sergey, 21.49 from Brent. I believe this is the first time you actually raced Brent in the 50 free. And what a success straight away. Why not earlier? And another question is, I keep coming back on you with the same question. Andrei Govorov. I feel like Andrei Govorov is the person of most interest for me in Toronto Titans for some reason. But why no Andrew in this 50 freestyle? Because in my opinion, there's only two things Andrew can swim. It's the 50 fly, and the 50 free. And anything outside of this is a disaster kind of thing. So why not put him in here? Why not maybe save Sergey for the
swum in 8 years. We really weren't sure what he had to offer. I knew he was a great swimmer, but you never know. 8 years without a race, he might not quite be. Would just do the relays in this competition. I thought that was very big of Michael. He was, one of our first signings, and it was kind of his decision to make, because one of the reasons we were able to attract Michael to come to the Toronto Titans after his previous year in the ISL was that he wasn't given any freedom at all, and he wasn't given any guarantee to swim any individual races with his formal team. And so we basically, to lure him to our team, we had to offer him pretty well carte blanche what he wanted to swim, and it was really big of him to step aside. So Brent stepped up, did a great job, and later in this meet, I think we're going to talk about it. We put him on the end of our relay, and he brought home the bacon. So it was a win-win all the way around. And eventually, your buddy Govorov was going to get a 50 free, though, Ivan.
Okay. Byron, talking about Brent, when did you ever consider recruiting him, especially considering that, as you mentioned, he had almost 8 years without racing, and that you were going to face one of the fastest swimmers and clubs in the world? So why that decision?
Two reasons, actually, Bruno. The one being that we're an expansion team, and I wouldn't say we were desperate, because I wouldn't say this was a desperate hiring, but at the same time, we didn't have a lot of opportunities or options out there. We were able to get Brent lined up before we were 100% sure about Michael or Blake Peroni coming. So, we know we needed some extra bodies on our team, and Brent was very keen on it, wanted to do it. And so we talked to him sort of early on. His coach reached out to me, Tom Johnson, and he had done a 50 free long course at the Tier Pro Series right at his best time. So that was a little bit of an indication, Bruno, that, this guy's been able to find it. He was in pretty good shape. I'd seen some videos of him and doing the weight training program that he was doing. So it looked like he just might have it, but it was a gamble, Bruno. It was absolutely a gamble.
It really, okay, there's this one thing about sprinters, with those big muscles, there comes time needed for recovery. So just as Dorina was mentioning about Melanie, it's just the same thing. It's like at some events, especially when you're talking back-to-back events, matches like these, because again, we were going like every 3 or 4 days to another match. It wasn't easy to keep everybody fresh, especially the sprinters. So you just need to give them some time to rest a little bit, and so that they can actually get recovered and get ready for the next event. There's no other way that they can really recover. It's not about drinks, food, or anything else that they can get back into it. So, and Simonas, he was one of the most consistent ones out of those sprinters. So, and Shetsov had some problem with his hamstrings as well.
Match against LA Current, and he was anchoring that relay against Maxime Bruni. Maxime got his hand on the wall first. He defeated him. So did you think that that affected the entire season of Simonas mentally?
It's something. Of course, it affects them, but like they can get back up out of it. So they are professional enough. And I mean, throughout the camp, I've never seen him sad about it or anything, because I mean, we didn't have anything to be sad about either. So whenever we had the team meetings and everything, it was just, I mean, it's a part of swimming. You just need to go rush into the wall and do whatever you can to actually get that touch. If you can get it, perfect. If you can, it happens. So you just need to get better for the next one.
Makes sense. Thank you, Ken. And Dorina, I just wanted to ask you to analyze the performance of your team here, because I believe Team Iron, this was one of the events I truly was surprised by you guys, because of course Maxim Lobanovsky and Tom de Boer are great swimmers. Maxim swam a 20.99 and Tom swam a 21.48, but it seemed like they had quite a bit of unpredictability in terms of how fast they're going to swim. But stars seem to align on this 50 freestyle right here. Could you talk a little bit about it?
You're exactly right about both Maxim and Tom. They were both a bit inconsistent throughout the season. And for Maxim, anything under 21 is really good. So here he barely snuck under it, which we were happy about. I mean, Flo's 20.7, that would have been close to his best time, you know. So it would have been possible as well. But I think at that point in the season, anything under 21 is good from him. In terms of Tom, that was a bit off for him, I think. Looking at the other times he did during the season, 21 low is where he can be. So 21.4 is a bit off for him, but it is how it is with the 50, I guess. You know, you make a small mistake and you're 3/10 off. And eventually he got back into 21, even 21.0, I think, Tom. So that's just how it goes with the 50, I think.
Fair enough. Yeah, 50 does
also,
seem quite a bit of variability in it. You're right.
Yeah.
Please go ahead, Bruno.
Definitely. No, I just wanted to ask Dorina that, especially Tom and Maxim Lobanovsky being, I don't want to say swimmers that are very recognized, but I mean, they are just, I would say, starting to get his names alongside the other names of the swimming world as Flo, Mana doing that. So did you think that the mental game play a huge role when they saw, I don't know, Flo, Mana doing those, the great swimmers of the 50 freestyle?
Yes, you're right. And Maxim actually is just breaking into the swimming world, I think, with his we saw him coming, especially
At the European Championships.
And being a Hungarian, we watched him closely, so we knew that the potential is there. And you're right, at the European Championship where he got third in the 50 behind Morozov and Flo, that's when kind of I think that was a breakout for him. So after that, we expected him to perform as well as he did in this season, and I think it's also important that he believed as well. So at this point, he's probably not afraid anymore of these big guys like Flo. So I don't think that was an issue for him. He just needs to keep racing them and keep learning. And he has a long way to go in his career, and I think he's gonna get better and better as the years go on. And Tom, the same. Tom, interesting fact, he actually has a full-time job. That's how he's swimming. He maintains a full-time job besides his swimming, and he just made the Dutch Olympic team. So we're very, very proud of him. He actually improved his results upon ISL and went into the Dutch Olympic qualifier meet, and he swam amazing and made the team. So I think we can expect some even more faster and faster results from him throughout the next few years.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Dorina. Could you open up on what is his work imply? What does he do, Tom?
Good question. I don't remember.
No worries.
Some kind of in business, something in business.
We can save it for a podcast with Tom.
Yeah.
But
Ivan, I was just going to step in and say that I noticed a lot of ISL swimmers went to meets following the ISL, like the trials, like the Dutch trials or whatever. And a lot were very, very impressive. I mean, I saw this several years ago with a world people that did the World Cups leading into the World Championship short course. And all the top swimmers were the ones that come off the World Cup. And I thought that this was a real big plus for the ISL this year, that a lot of the swimmers post ISL went to their trials or big meets or whatever, and they were all dropping in best times and doing a really, really good job. So cool that guy got on, Tom got onto the Olympic team for the Netherlands, and there've been some other athletes too. I just thought I don't know. Other people probably saw it, but I just thought it was worth mentioning.
Yeah, I know you're right. I noticed that for our team, especially, to be honest, we had
Ranomi broke
the same
the world
trials.
record.
Obviously, Ranomi swimming fast at the trials and at another competition, swimming close to world records and a world record with the relay with Femke on it. We also had from the Dutch team, Valerie, who was on our team, also made the Olympic team on a 50 and you probably seen Melanie swimming French records throughout the French nationals. So very, very impressive. And I think it shows that, it wasn't just 5 weeks or 6 weeks of racing, but they've done an actual, it was a good training block for a lot of them. And it shows how beneficial it was.
Of course.
Yeah.
And probably also the benefit of actually racing, because a lot of the athletes that came into trials probably haven't raced since like March, which is insane to think about. And the athletes of ISL obviously had the opportunity to race a bunch of times during the ISL bubble. But thanks for that observation. And with that, let's move to our next event, and it is the women's 50 meters freestyle. And straight away, Dorina, I have a question to you. You had Melanie Heineke and Ranomi Kromowidjojo represent you in this race. And please, 24.8 from Melanie, 23.55 from Ranomi. Are you happy with your decision with putting Ranomi in the one fly and resting Melanie? Are you happy with those results? Because from my honest opinion, I think Ranomi did amazing. And Melanie did great also, but I felt like Melanie had just a little bit in her potentially. That's just my personal observation. Would you agree with that?
Well, that was the first race for Melanie. Shouldn't do anything before that. She was really fresh. Yes, she was a bit faster the meet before and the meet after, but just I think 23.8, so only 2/10. So she wasn't too far. Again, we're talking about a 50 meters. So she wasn't too far off. In terms of Ranomi, she was also right on the time that she's done throughout the whole season. And I think it's interesting to see, and with Melanie coming fifth, I mean, this is a strong field with Sarah, Ranomi, and Femke, and Ting is really
Undoubtedly, yeah.
stepping up this season. So this is a really strong field. And I think it's interesting to see the race between Sarah and Ranomi. You know, they've been racing each other forever on the international stage. And last season, it was almost always Ranomi the first and Sarah second, and it switched a bit for this season. You know, they were always very close, 23-4, 23-5. But it looks like this season it was Sarah, but it always changes between them, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. And it seemed like almost Sarah had a little bit of a, I don't want to say she was trying to flex a little bit on Ranomi, but sometimes it feel like she was a little bit more excited and happy after winning the race when Ranomi was in it, rather than other races. And Can, would you agree to that, by the way?
Of course, rivalry is a big thing. Some of the athletes feed on it. It's psychology. So which is very much understandable if an athlete, I mean, some people go together forever. Sometimes one of them wins, sometimes the others. So that's very much understandable. And Sarah and Ranomi, just like Dorina said, they've been racing for a very, very long time. So, and you know, each of them get their chances at some seasons, and this was Sarah's this year, I guess. But of course, she gets a little bit more excited and happy. That's normal.
And I think it goes both ways. And you know, when you, even if you're called Sarah Söderström, if you beat someone like Ranomi, that's a huge thing. And for anyone to beat Katinka is a big thing. For anyone to beat Flo or Chad, you know, it's just an extra thing when you can beat an icon like that. And don't forget, Sarah beat the world record holder in this event. So I guess that I would think that that's also an extra.
Of course. Thank you. And Can, were you happy with the performance of Sarah and Femke here? I believe that it was absolutely outstanding.
You know,
especially for Femke, to be honest with you.
Of course, that's like the one thing. Sarah has been performing this season pretty well anyways, and we are kind of used to her doing that. But Fem, being a 200 free swimmer and then a 100 free swimmer, coming into a 50 free with a 23.7, it's something. And of course, going 1 and 3 on the 50 free for the team at a 50 free event made a whole lot of difference. So we're really happy about it, because it's not really easy to race Melanie in the 50 free, of course. And when you compare Femke and Melanie, of course, there's a gap for the 50 free, but like Femke is, again, a different soul, a different spirit, especially when it's about racing and training and everything. There comes another person. So, and she loves being there. She loves being on top, and she's a very well athlete. So that was a good 50 free for the team and for the girls as well. So
thank you, Can. And one more question regarding Femke. How much do you think she benefits from having her significant other and her coach in one person alongside of her during this ISL? Because a lot of people almost all people didn't have that benefit. How much did that help her out?
Well, Femke is very adaptable. She's normally training with Marcel in Eindhoven, and of course Guido. He's another type of person where he's all positive and feeding and always bringing everybody up. And I mean, I cannot think of anything but just helping 100% of the time to Femke. And I think it was a privilege for her to have him there all throughout racing, especially, you know, post-COVID, because she had a case, and then she got tested twice negative, and then she could actually join the team and everything. Staying out of the water, and she had another trouble actually because of COVID post-ISL, that she actually lost her 100 free, I think, qualification for the or 50 free qualification for the Olympics for now. Yeah, the 53 because she was already qualified, but she couldn't race at that event because her husband was COVID positive. Again, the rules are rules, so everybody has to play by the rules. But again, she's a very optimistic, positive athlete, so I can only say very, very good positive things about her as well. Like that was, and also Guido as well. Like I think it's a privilege for everybody to have him there.
Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken, for sure. Dorina, do you have something to add to that at all?
Just an inside joke that he's the
Okay.
chairman of Energy Standard.
Yeah, the chairman.
Not bad of a position, to be honest with you.
That shows,
But,
that shows his significance, I think.
with that, let's move to our next event, and it is the male 4x100 freestyle relay. And Byron, my first question goes to you. What a performance from your team! You guys brought it home, and I mean, Ken, no disrespect, but it must feel so good taking down Energy Standard in this relay, especially having Chad Leclerc and Manadou bring them home, and they still get defeated. That must have been such a satisfaction in you after that happened. And just to outline, I mean, you had Brandon Hayden swim 46.9, Blake Peroni 45.9, Michael Chadwick 46.6, but Yuri Kisil to start things off 46.7. What a performance! And why didn't Yuri end up ever swimming the 100 freestyle? It seemed like he was kind of on par with Peroni and Chadwick.
Yeah, I mean, the stars aligned. All four boys stood up and really did a great job. No question about that. We knew we had a good relay. We were consistently second or third in our other meets. And we knew we had a shot at Energy Standard. And as Dorina said earlier, you know, when you can take down the big names and the big team, it's uplifting. And you know, the meet before, our women's medley relay had beaten Energy Standard, and we were absolutely ecstatic about that, and it sort of buoyed us for the rest of the competition. And this one was the same thing. When you can win something like this in a close race, it's very, very exciting. And you know, we put the order particularly. That was a good order for us. I felt that we needed to lead Yuri. He looked very good, and he did a great job, and I'll talk about him in a second. And then you put the experience of Michael Chadwick second. Our best swimmer in the 100 free was Blake Peroni. So I felt we needed to put him third to sort of try to give us a bit of lead. His job was to give Brent a full second lead if he needed to on the end. And then Brent was, of course, had to bring it home. And Brent didn't even look over. He just put his head down and buried it all the way home. And 46.9 for Brent right now is pretty amazing. We talked about him a little earlier in this podcast, and for him to be able to do that on the end was an inspiring swim for the entire team. He was our captain, our men's captain, and he had some very nice words to say to the team throughout the entire contest. So he's a very positive guy. And Ivan, I think I told you as an aside that, you know, he basically at our end of year or our end of contest meeting, when the whole team was there right before they're all going to fly home the next day, and he basically said, I wasn't sure if I wanted to come out of retirement, but the ISL has now convinced me that I made the right decision. I loved it. It was the greatest thing. It's the most fun I've had in swimming, and I'm going to keep swimming for a while longer. So it really worked out well for us. The reason Yuri wasn't in the individual event, again, this was one of those things where Yuri had a bit of a down to 2019, 2020. And so we weren't sure if he could actually be competitive with Blake and Mike. And so for that reason, he was signed as a relay only swimmer. And in order to put him in the individual events, then we would have had to pull those guys out. So we did it once, this meet with Blake, and put Brent in the race. And I actually talked to Yuri about it, and he said, let's give Brent a shot at it. And we did. And if we would have had more meets, we would have rotated Yuri in. But his job was to lead off, and we let him off on all the relays. So at least we simulated a 100-meter freestyle flat start. So all in all, it was great. We loved it. And our second place team was in second or third spot, I think, for the first two legs, because we were pretty strong. But then we rested Shane Ryan and Sergey for the 50 backstroke, the next event, or we could have possibly finished third with that relay. So,
Byron, actually, you had Andrei Govarov lead the B relay with a 48.7.
Yeah, that hurt us a bit, but
Just
but they were in good spot after that, right? So, and I guess some of the other teams were a bit weak too. But the fact is, we had two big studs that we didn't race because we rested them, and may have cost us 2 or 4 points. But I think in the long run, it paid off for those other guys like Shane in the backstroke. So
100%.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Byron.
Talking about And talking
Go ahead,
about
Bruno.
the lineups, sorry for interrupting you, but I wanted to ask Can that because we are seeing here that on the B relay, you guys use Ben Proud, Sergei Shevtsov, Gregor, and Klimen Kolesnikov. So it seems that you wanted to put two very strong relays and not a very strong one, and the other to let them weak. So you wanted the most amount of points. Yeah, if I'm right. But did you ever consider that the Toronto Titans were going to be so dangerous and maybe changing Matt Rivers for Klimen Kolesnikov? Because you will have easily take that victory because Kolesnikov was the fastest split on the entire field.
Quite by far, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5'6", if I'm not mistaken, 45-3.
45-3. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he's a fast guy. Anyway. So yeah, the whole thing was to maximize the points. Really, we thought that there was no chance with jackpot being about 10 seconds for the relay to actually jackpot anybody with a very strong team on this one. But having to split Flo and Klim to both relays because Klim did the 200 back that day as well before the 4x1. So that's why he's actually anchoring the relay so that he could get a little bit 4 more minutes of rest or 3 more minutes of rest. And I think it turned out pretty good because if I calculated right, we got 26 points out of this, which at the end, when we're talking team, this is the important part. So when you're actually talking about 2 teams going in, scoring 26 points out of the field, basically it actually works out better for us for this event, of course. If it was the final match, it would have been a different thing, and here as well. So changing Matt Grievers and Klim was really, this was the strategy for this one. And we think that it worked out pretty well. Toronto on the other end, 3 46s and a 45. It's a fast relay. Not a lot of people can actually stand in front of that. So again, kudos, congrats. Very fast relay. It was great to watch, really.
Thank you, Ken. And Dorina, quite a quick question for you regarding this relay. You had quite a bit of freestyle stars on your team. Marco Orsi, Tom de Boer, Clement Mignon, Maxim Lobanovsky. But the fastest person out of the both of your relays was in fact Emre Sakci, the breaststroker. How did this happen?
Yeah, you probably should ask him how that happens. But this was already our 3rd match, right? But on the first match, this is the relay where we saw right in the beginning, that he's in amazing shape. He's close to world record on a 50, on the 100, but we didn't know what he could do in the skins, right? Because that's a different game. That's one thing that you can swim a fast 50. But how about 3 times?
And hey, guess what? You were in for a pleasant surprise, right?
Yes. And this was, in the first match, this was the relay where we knew he had a good time in the 100 free, but it was right after the 50 breast. But, the first match for us was all about, and I'm sure for the other teams as well, let's see where everyone is at. We had no idea, all our 100 freestylers were pretty close to each other at times. So we had no idea who's where exactly. And this was the relay where we, Emre had a good time, so let's put him in. Let's see how he handles this tough double with the 50 breast and right after the 4x1 freestyle. And he's done the 46. So we were like, okay, I think we're good for the spins. I think he'll be good if he have breaststroke, he can handle it. So that's the interesting part for us about this relay. And yeah, he constantly brought this 46, which is amazing.
Oh yeah. So this was a little bit of a test for Emre also. Is he worthy of the skins?
Exactly.
Interesting.
Well, not the worthiness, I don't think so. But we knew at that point that he'll be fine.
Thank you, Dorina. And with that, let's move to the next event, women's 200 meters butterfly. And straight away, Dorina, I wanna ask a question to you. You had Maria Ugalkova and Katinka Hosu. perform for you in the 2 fly. Maria swam at 2:08.29 and Katinka swam at 2:05.45 and won the event.
Finally.
Finally, exactly. I wanted to ask you, how important was the performance for the overall spirit of the team? Because it seemed like, I remember me and Bruno were commentating the match, and as soon as Katinka won this 2 fly, it seemed like things started to fall in the hands of Team Iron one after another. You guys, it seemed like this was the thing that got you on a roll almost. Would you agree to this?
Yeah, I think everybody was happy to see Katinka finally get that win and swim under 2:06, which this was her best 200 fly time in the whole season, which for her is not a fast time, but this year is different. So I think the whole team, she's a really special. She's not only owner and captain of the team, but she's a great teammate. So everyone was really happy everyone saw that she was struggling. So everyone was happy to see her finally get under it and get that win. But I have to tell you, even when she was struggling and placing 4th, 5th, 6th, it didn't affect team performance that much because she was there for the team, which was really impressive to see, actually, even for me. That she didn't, get down on herself. She went right back to the box and supported all her teammates. So yeah, it was an extra boost. But I think the team did really well, even when she was struggling.
Thank you. And yeah, for sure. But I mean, it must uplift the team when a captain gets such a long way to W, right? It must.
Exactly.
But a question to you, Can. You had Susanna Jakobos and Marie-Sophie Harvey race this event, and both of them did great. 2:07.86 from Marie-Sophie Harvey. Hey, I'm not going to even mention that much the diversity of Marie-Sophie Harvey because we've touched upon this so much, and I feel like nothing surprises me now. She can swim just about everything.
Yeah.
But Susanna Jakobos, 2:07.54. I feel like this was definitely on the better side of Susanna's performances in the ISL. And my big question to you is, how much does Katinka motivate Susanna to swim fast? How much of a target does Susanna have on Katinka's back? Because they're rivals for quite a bit, and they're rivals on the Hungarian national team. They're rivals all along. How much does the presence of Katinka affect Susanna in a race?
From the time that I know the international swimming, and I used to be a 200 flyer as a swimmer as well, so that's why I'm actually very, very interested in the 200 fly. And as far as I've known the international world of swimming, it's been always about the 200 butterfly Hungarian women. So, and the boys as well. But like the women, even in the young ages, there are so many of them actually coming so fast, and some of them actually staying on top, but it's still more than the average of any country, maybe. I'm not sure, but they do have a very good 200 butterfly program for some reason. And these two, actually now I think 3, and some of them actually left, but 3 or 4 of them still at this field right now, actually competing for the Olympics. And as soon as one of them actually does anything a little bit slightly bad, they're not going to make the Olympic team in the 200 butterfly. So, of course, that kind of rivalry gets them going. I'm 100% sure, as long as they want to stay in the game. And about their friendship, I have no idea, or whatever. But like, I mean, swimming wise, I'm pretty sure all this competition is helping them get better for sure. Because being on top and having nobody around the race is not going to help. But like, if you have competition, of course, it's just going to get you to go faster or stay out.
Makes sense. Thank you, Can. And Dorina, you're a person who probably knows Katinka and Susanna best in this podcast. How much of a rivalry they have going on?
They definitely do have it, but I think it was more intense when they were growing up. They were always going back and forth. Actually, when they were younger, Zhu was faster than Katinka, and then at one point it switched, And since then, Katinka's been doing a bit better. I think they're just happy to have each other at these races all these years. It's always special to have someone there who you've raced and trained with for so long. So they definitely motivate each other, but it's more of a, I think they just appreciate having each other there. It's more of that than the motivation at this point to beat each other.
Makes sense. And yeah, you end up developing very special relationships with rivals like that. And I, as a swimmer myself, I don't have a parallel relationship with anyone in my life outside of rivals like that. It's very special having someone that is very similar to you, goes through very similar struggles, and competes with you on every meet you pretty much go to. But that brings me to the next point. Why didn't you recruit Susanna in Team Iron? How did she end up in Energy?
Should probably ask James Gibson about that.
Okay.
Recruiting, there's some strange stuff in recruiting. I think all of us can attest to that. That it's not always as straightforward as you think. So I don't know. We wanted to have her back, but she decided to go with Energy Standard. I would think that probably the fact that Energy Standard won the first season, that most likely affected her decision. And to be honest, I don't necessarily blame her, because if the winning team calls you up, it's hard to say no, I would imagine. So.
But you guys would like to have her on board, right?
Yes.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you. And with that, let's move to the next event, and it is the women's 100 meters backstroke. And straight off the bat, Byron, I have a question to you. Lisa Braden and Kylie Masse, same people that swim the two back, but a very different outcome. It seemed like Kylie managed to turn things around, find the strength within her, and upset Emily in this. But for Lisa, it didn't work out quite as well. 57, 58. Did the two back performance affect her at all? Maybe got her down a little bit? Sorry, Byron, I believe you're muted.
My daughter's dog came by. I had to mute so that you wouldn't hear him barking in the background. I think Lisa was just actually starting to run out of gas a little bit, which is interesting because she was probably training the hardest of any athlete we had on the team, other than our two distance freestylers, Anya and Alex. So she just somehow lost a little bit of conditioning, and getting upset in the 200 back was, yes, I think it probably took a little edge off, but this is the next day. She's raced enough that I don't think it would have mentally brought her down. She went in there trying to help. She wanted to help the team score points in that. So she was definitely disappointed with not being able to sort of get back up to that time she did earlier in the contest, earlier in the series in the 100 backstroke. And Kylie loves the 100 backstroke. It's her baby. She is the long course world champion. So for her to come back up and race Emily, they had a fantastic race at the Commonwealth Games down in Australia. I think there was 2 100ths difference between them. So they've always been very close, and they race each other very well. So this was a good thing for Kylie to turn around and get back at it.
Thank you. And yeah, it seemed like I was quite happy for Kylie and this one back, because it seemed like she needed that W after the two back, because looking at their walkouts on this 100 backstroke, Kylie was so focused. She seemed so stressed in a way, and it seemed like, oh man, Kylie needs this win, because if not, that might bring her down quite a bit. Would you agree to this? If this not happened the way it did, would you think?
I think so. I mean, Kylie, she's a great competitor, and she reaches down really, really low, really well to be able to get everything out of herself, right? And she and I both felt that there was more in the 200 back, and it didn't quite come to fruition. So this was a great way to make sure you get back up there and reassert your prominence. And she learned a lot in the skins that she had in the last contest. She'd never really done a skins before at a high level like that, so she actually did her best time she'd done in years in the very first 50, which is which really, if you look at Sarah doesn't do that. Sarah holds back on the first 50, right, and advances, and then has more energy at the end. So there was a lot of learning that was going on, but more importantly, just, you know, establish yourself as one of the best in the field and continually get to the podium, and then you know you're a champion. And so it was really important for her to win that.
Thank you, Byron. And Can, a question to you. I mean, Georgia Davis and Emily Seebohm, 57.4 from Georgia, 56.4 from Emily. Yeah, probably you had expectations for Emily to maybe win this one back, but Emily has always been known for a better two back. And she already did her job here, it seems like, and Georgia seems a little bit more in the 50 side. So were you satisfied with these performances, or did you expect a little bit more from them?
Again, being a COVID year, having all these lockdowns, sometimes it helps the spinners, sometimes not. And okay, to start with Emily, having a good backhand speed doesn't necessarily, having a good 200 back doesn't necessarily mean that you can go fast in the 100. So I think, at least for that time being, 56.4 was actually impressive for us. So we were really happy with Emily's going 56.4. Georgia, you know, with her becoming a European champion in Glasgow, if I'm not mistaken, in the 50 back, 100 back, or 50 back. And she is definitely a huge talent. It's just she needed some time to actually get ready, more time for training, getting a little bit more adapted to racing and everything. And so she wasn't just fully in there for this ISL. But again, the field is so strong that, you know, sometimes that also affects the athletes. And for Georgia, I mean, she's been around for a long time. She's going to get back in again. So I wouldn't say that we were surprised about results, really. Like, we kind of, you know, spending time with the athletes, you actually get an idea about what they can actually do. So
for sure. And it seemed like for both for Georgia and for Emily, this was right around their peak performances in the ISL. So nothing to be made there. Thank you. But with that, let's move to our next event, and it is the female 100 meters individual medley. And straight from the bat, Can, another question to you. Marisa Harvey and Anastasia Shkurdai, 59.1 from Marisa Fee and 58.3 from Anastasia. Just looking at this and looking at the two swimmers, Anastasia and Marisa Fee, I would think that Marisa Fee should have a faster 100 meters individual medley, because first of all, she is a natural individual medley specialist. Second of all, we know she has endurance on top of Anastasia, though it doesn't matter as much in a 100 individual medley. But most importantly, we saw her in her incredible performance in the 50 back. Her fly is excellent. Her breaststroke is on point, and just it seems to me like she should be able to be at least end up with the same result as Anastasia. But Anastasia ended up out touching her by 0.6. Did this win in the 100 fly boost Anastasia's confidence for this? Do you think that played a part?
For sure. I mean, pretty much everything that she swam, she broke the Belarusian record or the world junior record or some record. Again, she's coming. So, they're very precise about the work that they're doing. And how they actually manage all the events inside a match, it's amazing. And her coach, Olga, is also very attentive. So she's always there trying to take care of her needs, whatever she needs to get prepped for the next event. She does a whole lot for her. And she delivers, generally, about 90% of the time. Of course, with this many back-to-back events, it's not easy. And for Mary as well, I mean, having a 200 fly and then 100 IM, and I mean, she's been doing a whole lot of events. And this was right in the time where she was about to get ready. And of course, it's not that easy, because if she would have had the chance to do the 100 IM like many times after this, she definitely would get that time. But this was just when the training and the racing was actually coming together, at least for all of her performances in the final match. So she was right there in the middle a little bit. So that is again understandable though. We were really happy with Mary's results all throughout the way, except the first match.
Fair enough. Thank you, Ken. And a question towards you, Dorina. You had Katinka Hosse and Jenna Laukkanen swim the 100 meters individual medley for you. And first of all, my question is, how come Jenna Laukkanen is so successful in the 100 meters individual medley? Because she seems to be more of a 200 breaststroke swimmer than she is a 100 meters back breaststroke swimmer. Yet she's so successful in sprint IM. How does this happen? And my other question is, did you ever consider putting, I know Katinka is such a star that throwing her out of an event seems, you have to be out of your mind. But maybe giving someone like Ida Halka a shot could be an option, because since Jenna is so successful and Ida definitely has the sprinting abilities, it seemed like she could do some damage in the 1 IM. Any considerations for that at all?
Yes, we did. In terms of Jenna, I think she's more on the sprinter side. At this match, she had a really good 200, 221, which was close to her best time. But in short course, 221 is still not there. I think her 50 and her 100 is much better. Internationally, she has a really good 100 freestyle, especially short course. And the 100 IM, he was top 3 at the last Europeans, I believe, both the 100 breast and the 100 IM. So I expected her to do a really good 100 IM, and this was actually a best time. And I listened to your podcast with them, and this was their best meet, right, for both of them, for Ida and Jenna. This was a really good meet for them. And for this event, Ida won the 50 breast, Jenna got, I think, 3rd. And then later she got 2nd on the 100. So I think for this 100 IM, the whole team was on their heels to watch her finally win the event, and she was very, very close. So we were very bummed to see her lose this by 300ths of a second. But again, this was the best time for her. So she did really, really well for herself. What was the other question about Katinka? Yes, we did consider putting someone else in there because she couldn't quite figure out how to break 59 this season. She was always 59 or even outside of the minute. But to be honest, we didn't find anyone else who could go under a minute. I don't think Ida's best time, I think 103. So
wow.
Not quite there. So even, Katinka's going 59.2 and getting 5th is pretty good. I know she has obviously a best time much, much better than this, but we thought that no one else on the team could go 59. Later, I learned at this last Dutch meet that Ranomi can actually swim a 58, but again, her best time was outside of the minute. So I already told her that next season she's up on the 100 IM. So maybe we'll see her soon.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And probably for Katinka also, I mean, Katinka is notorious for having insane recovery times. She can recover like no one else. And probably the 100 IM doesn't take as much out of her, right?
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Same with when day one, when we were considering 2 back and 2 IM, if she should rest or the 4x100 freestyle relay and then 2 IM. We were thinking, okay, let's do a really good 200 IM, and before that maybe she should rest. She should take the 100 back or 200 back and the 4x100 freestyle relay off. But she actually said that it doesn't matter for her. It doesn't make a difference for her to swim 100 IM or 100 free or a 200 back beforehand. She's just so used to it, having back-to-back events, that it doesn't take too much out of her. So, yeah.
Thank you, Dorina. And with that, let's move to our next event, the male 100 meters individual medley. And straight away, I have a question to you, Byron. You had Finley Knox and Sergey Fesikov represent you in this event. Finley swam at 53.03, and Sergey swam very nicely, 52.17. He got 2nd. I believe this was his best placement in the ISL completely. Yep. And I think this is a testament to you resting him from that 100 meters butterfly, right?
Yeah, well, yes, resting him there and resting him in that 4x1 free relay so he wouldn't have to go back to back with the 50 backstroke. So he's getting older and he just can't do quite as many races. He's willing to do anything I ask him. He was a wonderful team guy. I think I mentioned that earlier. He was also my translator. We had 5 Russians on the team, and Sergey's English is perfect. So he was able to translate and help me when I had to talk to the other Russians that were on our team, who were a real advantage, a real plus to be on our team. Real bonus. And Sergey, attacked every race. And he said, after the ISL was over, Ivan, he said, you know what? I wasn't able to get in the gym nearly as much. Perhaps that's because he has a 5-year-old at home that he's, not a lot of swimmers have children at home that they're taking care of. And he and his wife have a 5-year-old. And he just said he wasn't in the gym as much. He says, I'm not as strong as I need to be. He says, I'm going to lift a lot more weights. I'm going to get a lot stronger. And I'd like to come back and swim again in the next season. So.
Wow, that's interesting. And it's interesting to see, I believe Sergey, he's a very competitive guy, even when it seems like he doesn't have a shot at winning. Because I remember chatting with him before your final match for that 100 meters individual medley, and he is the former world record holder in it. Yeah. And I was discussing with him how much the results are improving since just 5-7 years ago in the 100 meters individual medley. And he was responding to me with, yes, I need to step up my game. I need to get under there. And I was so impressed. It's such a mentality to have when you have a kid, you're married, you're kind of I don't want to call him an elderly swimmer, but he is definitely on the older side. I think Sergey has a very unique mentality. It's very interesting to see.
Well, and he's very and he's very positive, and he spills over to everybody else on the team. You could see that, he's always willing to do whatever he wants, whatever we need him to do, and he's always talking to the other athletes about how you can get better, and he's up there to win. Like he's pissed off when he's not doing, when he's not getting to the podium. If he was 4th in the 50 backstroke, he was really bummed out. He wanted to be 3rd. He wanted to be 2nd. So he's not just going through the motions. I mean, this guy's seen it all. He's got an Olympic medal on a relay under his belt. So, for him, competing is very important, and he likes it, and he's got a lot of pride. So he's a real asset to our team. We loved him.
Thank you. And I just want to make another positive comment towards Sergey, because Sergey was actually probably one of the reasons we had so many Russians come over to the ISL. Because Sergey started the trend. A lot of the Russians were saying, no, our federation is against it. We're not sure if it's safe for COVID and so on. But Sergey was the first guy to say, hey, I'm on board. Let's do this. And then people started following. We had Clement, we had Ustinova, Morozov, you name them. So huge thank you to Sergey for that, for the trust.
Definitely.
But
Ivan, talking about the 100 IM, because we saw alongside the entire season, I don't know if you will agree with me, but I'll say that a lot of teams played a role a lot with the lineup in the 100 IM because they use a lot of their swimmers. But if there's one swimmer that really specialized in this race, and I talked to his coach, I would say it was Marco Orsi during the entire season of ISL. So Dorina, why Marco Orsi especially only swim the 100 IM, and also considering that he could have done the 50 freestyle a little bit? I know that his coach told me that he was not focusing on that race, only on the 100 IM. So how pleased were you with Marco Orsi and his performances alongside the entire season?
I think knowing his history in this event, he's pretty much a 100 IM legend of the sport. This is the one event that I recruited him for, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't sure how he would do the 50 or the 100 freestyle, if he even swam the 50 free. He swam it once, I think. I wasn't sure how he would do on the 100 freestyle, but I was very confident that 100 IM is it's his baby. It's his favorite event. He's been really, really successful in it. So I was really expecting him to be up there, challenging or even beating Flo and Caleb. Obviously, Caleb at the end got really, really fast, really quick. But he's been consistently good. So I was really happy with him, and he actually stepped up in all the other events as well. So besides the 100 IM, He had some really fast in the 100 freestyle relays. So we were very impressed with him because he's on the other side as well. You know, he's been around for a long time. So to be able to still produce, you know, sub 50, 52, 52 all here, but he's been 51s. Is really, really impressive. So we were very happy with him. Yeah.
Thank you, Dorina.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's very interesting to see sort of, you mentioned Marco is a little bit on the older side of Sumis, kind of shift focus in this later age, because he was a bit more of a freestyler back in the day than he was an IM. Though his 100 IM, as you said, was legendary. But it takes a special person to say, okay, I need to change something even in such a later stage of the career and be successful at it. But my other question to you is, Jakov Tumarkin did great, 52-62. But you have one swimmer who I wanted to see in the 100 meters individual medley so bad, and it is Emre Sakci. Emre Sakci, man. But Emre Sakci, probably in this match, it didn't make any sense in racing Emre Sakci in the 1 IM, because you had the skins coming up, then before the skins he has the one breast. It's probably way too much. But on a match where we didn't have the skins, the breaststroke skins, why don't we see Emre race the 100 IM? I believe we would have seen something very special for him. Were you saving him up for the one breast?
That's interesting, because this never came up, to be honest, because we were just happy with Marco and Jakov. So we never really looked for someone else. And I know the 100 breaststroke was really important for him, to you know, just for the time and also the placement. So to be honest, he would not have been happy if I put him in the 100 IM, and it just never really came up. And with Jaco, to tell you, this was the first match where he didn't have the 100 backstroke beforehand, which just hugely improved his performance. So we were really happy with the 52.6. I believe that's close to his best time. And just here, if I could mention, because I don't think we have a backstroke event. We skipped over 100 back, and the backstroke events were Rob Glinta. This was the first match that Robert Glinta came back from his positive COVID test. And right away, he started breaking Romanian records and PBs. And throughout the season, he was improving every match. So I just wanted to give him a shout out here, because it was super, super impressive. And that kind of shows his character and shows why he's the captain of Team Iron. You know, spending 14 days in his room and coming out and breaking national records was just super, super impressive. And you know, him coming back to the team, basically that's what allowed Jaco to take off the 100 back and be fresh for this 100 IM. And he showed it, you know, got fourth, close to best time. So this was a good match for us.
Oh yeah, and Dorina, I hope to have you for the discussion of your semifinal. But on the semifinal, Glinta was just insane. Seeing him defeat Ryan Murphy in this 100 meters backstroke, even me as a Ryan Murphy fan, I lost my mind. It was insane to see. I totally agree.
Yeah.
But just coming back to the Emre Sakci deal, just think about it. We saw him perform an excellent 50 fly in skins for you. His freestyle is one of the best on your team, to be honest with you. It's great, his freestyle. His breaststroke doesn't need any comments. I mean, it seems like his 100 meters individual medley should be spectacular. I sincerely hope that you give him at least one chance next season.
I completely agree, and if the schedule allows, then I will. Don't worry about it, because I agree with you. I honestly don't know why this never came up for him to swim the 100 IM. I think just because of that, because we already had our two guys there, two specialists. But I agree. I can't wait to see him try this, and yeah, maybe next ISL, if the schedule allows, then we'll try it out.
To be perfectly honest with you, I feel like if there's anyone who can provide some competition for Caleb, it's Emre. But we're yet to see this. But Can, a question to you. You had Andrius Sedlauskas and Flo Manade for racing for you in this men's 100 in individual medley. And no disrespect, but I believe this was a little bit of a disaster. Because 100 IM is an event that I believe many people on your team can swim at a very, very high level. Even people like Zir Gregor, Yevgeny Rilov, Clement Kolesnikov, all these people can probably drop a very fast 100 meters individual medley. But Andrius Sedlauskas 54.9, it was probably not what you're looking for. And also Flo, 52.4 from Flo, even though it's a good result, but not for Flo.
He
what
was
happened there?
actually getting tired. At that point, he was getting tired, and we really wanted to, of course, we did have some people that could go faster for that one. Actually, many of them, even Max Dupin, like we had a lot of people, but Andreas actually needed the chance because he's been there from the beginning of the camp. And Andrei Jilkin was, again, COVID positive, quarantine at that time. So, I mean, having a deep team, you just need to give people some chances, and this was one of them. So, for Flo, again, somewhat being a spinner, being a big guy, comes with costs. So, this was one of them as well. So, it happens.
And you mentioned the cost about being a sprinter and Flo. We spoke with Tom Rushton last week on this match analysis, and he mentioned that after Flo came back of retirement and played handball during, I believe, 2-3 years, he was a little bit more stronger, had more muscle mass, and that Tom thought that this thing that Flo had more muscular mass on him was affecting his swimming. Would you agree with that? And especially seeing that he's not recovering as he was used to do in the past?
Of course. I mean, all right, you're basically talking about pure power, muscle power, physical power, but swimming is a correlation a whole lot. So it's not just about physical power. It's there's a lot of physiology involved, so which is understandable. When you have a lot of muscle, you need to rest it, and then all of a sudden it takes a lot more time if you get bigger. And you as a coach, athlete has to understand what they need to do to get better recovery after the sessions, after the meets. So it takes time to adjust, really. So it's not an easy task.
Thank you, Ken.
Yep.
And with that, let's move to our next event, and it is the female 100 meters breaststroke. And straight away, once again, question for you, Ken. You had Bria Larson and Benedetta Pilata race for you in this 100 meters breaststroke. Bria swam a 105.42, and Pilata swam a 104.61.
Yeah.
First of all, what was happening to Bria Larson this season? Last season, Bria Larson was almost a star of ISL. She was winning the breaststroke events left and right. But this season, it seemed like she was a little bit off. Was it the COVID that affected her? Or what was it?
It was the COVID. Again, she did lose a lot of training time, and she had to move cities because she was in Cali, and then she had to move back to Arizona to also change of coaching at that time. She was just adjusting, really, and staying out of the water didn't help as well. But again, we were happy that, she started with 105s coming down to a 104. She was magnificent with taking care of all our 200 breast girls work. Because normally she's not, if you've seen her, I mean, she's pretty well built, and she's not a 200 breaststroker at all. But she managed it pretty well, and she got better and better throughout the season. Again, another very, very positive spirit there. She's been very helpful with a lot. I know that she's actually giving back to the swimming community, trying to actually keep them understand these newcomer athletes, because she was a gold medalist in the 2012 and with the relay team, and she's still in the game and trying to actually teach the kids and athletes how to manage their money throughout professional swimming and all. So, I mean, she's been giving back a lot. So she's a different girl. And Pilato, on the other hand, she's an amazing girl. And she's young. She's still a high school student. She couldn't train any
15
of
years
the
of age,
mornings.
right?
Yeah, I mean, she couldn't train any of the mornings because she had to take that online schooling in the mornings. So she's only doing afternoon trainings. Sometimes if she missed it, she had to swim at the hotel pool, doing a little bit of sprinting. She's always positive, always smiling, very energetic. Again, she's something else as well. She's hopefully she will stay in swimming for long. Hopefully she can stay humble a little bit and just keep this work going. These are very dangerous ages for me, for 15, 16-year-old girls. So hopefully she can stay in that game, really.
Thank you, Ken. And I actually wanted to touch base upon this a little bit more on this young age for very fast female swimmers. Because if we analyze the past a little bit, have a look at the trend of very fast young female swimmers. We have Missy Franklin, incredibly successful at 2012, then kind of gets lost with her results. Penny Alexak, 2016 Olympic superstar, got a little bit lost after that. Then we got Ruta Melutite, a superstar in London when she was young, got a little bit lost after that. My big question to you is, do you feel like some of these young girls, when they come into these huge meets with a significant drop of time, are they almost unaware of how big this is and how important this is, and potentially that alleviates some of the pressure? And as they get older, they sort of start taking it more seriously, and it brings down their performance a little bit? Or is it purely because their bodies change with age and they get a little bit heavier and the water stops supporting them as well? What is your take on that?
A lot. Again, swimming fast for a very long time is not an easy thing, and there are so many parameters in play. Definitely one thing is the mentality, because some of the athletes think that, all right, I go win the Olympics at the age of 15. I break a world record at the age of 15. What more can I do? So they're done. Some of them want to be the best for a very long time because they cannot help but stop themselves of going faster and staying up above that level. They just keep going. And some of them, just like you say, their bodies change because female physiology and biology are really different things than the males. Because we had the same thing with Victoria. She did the 200 breast world record, junior record in 2015, going into 16, I think. And then that time could have won the Olympics at the 2016, but all of a sudden, the body started changing, her buoyancy changed, everything changed, coaching changed. Of course, a lot has changed. And then things go different ways. The athlete and the coaching staff needs to adapt if you want to keep them going as well. But I truly believe that it's like a time of a gap where you need to stay really patient and just keep going with it, because at some point there you're going to come back up again. But you just need to give that patience for that time being. So,
thank you.
Yeah, Ivan. What I've been asked this question a lot because I do some of the media for Canada, and because we've had that issue with many different athletes, and Penny is the latest one. And one of the analysis that I give, and see if this makes any sense to everybody on the call, is that the youngsters, when they get to their Olympics, it's like being in a car and you're the passenger. And when you go into a big, huge intersection and there's a fire truck coming and there's somebody honking the horn behind you and there's a pedestrian where you want to turn left, and all that's happening at once, and you're the pedestrian and you're just sitting in the car. The other person's in charge of driving, and you're in your own little world and there's no stress. As opposed to then 2 years later, you're the person driving. It's the first time you've ever been in an intersection where you've got all that happening and you panic and you don't know what to do. And I think that's what happens is these youngsters, they don't have any reason to be afraid because they really don't have anything to be afraid of because they've never been there before. But all of a sudden, once you've got that gold medal, once you've been the star, now all of a sudden you've got all this input coming in, and there's not really a playbook to help these athletes through it. On top of course, the biological changes that do happen to some of them. And I'll just finish by saying that, some of them don't make it out the other end, but the one that needs the most kudos here, we should really mention, is Sarah Sostrom. because at 14, she broke the world record and she was on top of the world. And she went to 2 successive Olympics after that and didn't really perform very well. I mean, considering she was a world record holder and everybody thought she was going to win lots of medals. And it took her to her 3rd Olympics, as I recall, before she finally actually was able to get back on top and be the dominant woman that she is today. So, you know, it's a very interesting dilemma and a very interesting challenge that these, you know, youngsters are going to have when they succeed so early.
Oh,
Sure.
and Byron, you made an excellent point there with Penny mentioning, because I heard an interview of her and she mentioned that when she was going to those Olympic trials in 2016, she was just enjoying swimming and she wasn't putting goals or times, you know, she was just swimming for fun, and she got on that Olympic team. In the final, she was expecting to finish in 5th, 6th place, and when she watched the scoreboard, she got that Olympic medal. So as you mentioned, yeah, I believe that they don't have anything to lose. They have everything to win. That's why we saw those amazing performances when they are so young. We're actually talking about Benedetta and Sarah. I mean, she has a great example to follow there, Can. So maybe that's a good reason, and she can stay along in swimming, as you mentioned before. But discussing once again the 100 breaststroke. I mean, Ida Hulko and Jenna Laukkanen, Dorina, I mean, both are from Finland. The swimmers, Ivan and me talked to them just a few days ago, and they mentioned that they have never met each other before this season of ISL, and they finished in a very important match in 1st place and in 2nd place. And actually, Ida is the one that is younger, and Jenna is the swimmer with more experience. So how would you say that this helped Ida's, I would say, mindset? Because maybe when she was younger, she was always looking for Jenna as her model. And nowadays, she's swimming alongside her and defeating her and finishing 1st place in a very important competition.
Yeah, and this was, as they discussed, this was a really, really good match for them. That was actually best time for Ida and close to best time for Jenna. I hope that this relationship between the two of them will help both of them, but especially Ida, as you say, coming in younger, less experience, and then suddenly swimming fast times, winning events. I hope she can take some advice from Jenna and learn along the way, and they can help each other. As they describe, they motivate each other and they learn from each other. So that's a really good dynamic to have, you know, coming from the same country. And actually, Ida was a late addition to our team, because we had some big names dropping out, and you know, you never know. It was a gamble again, you know, to pick her up, and she just overperformed. We were so impressed with her, and Jenna just brought what she used to do, you know. We brought her back because she was very consistent. She was very fast throughout the season 1 as well, and she showed that again in season 2. And really, the relationship between the two of them, I mean, they were training together. They were motivating each other, challenging each other in these races. So yeah, we were very happy with this race, obviously.
Thank you, Dorina. Was this the highlight of the match for you?
One of them. You know, when you go 1-2, that's always so special, and I think all the coaches and everyone can attest to that. That's something special when you come 1-2 as a team. And we had quite a few of those, thanks to Ranomi and Melanie. That's always a huge thing, and the box is, you know, just going crazy. So we needed these huge wins.
Thank you, Dorina.
And I think I was just going to say, I think this was kind of the nail in the coffin that they were going to beat us too, right? So this was I wouldn't say the turning point, because the Ironman was having a pretty good second day. But I think once they finished 1-2 here, and of course then they had Emre coming up in the men's breaststroke, and then they had the skins as well coming up, that this kind of turned the tide, and they kind of locked down second place in this match.
So that was a bit of an anti-highlight for you, Byron, right?
Yes, it was. Even though we saw it coming, it doesn't matter. It still hurts when it actually happens.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I had Benedetta Pilato as the favorite here. I did not think Jenna and Ida would be able to pull off an upset here.
True.
Yeah, definitely.
But Byron, with that, let's move to the next event, the male 100 meters breaststroke. And I have a question to you straight away. You mentioned that last event, it seemed like Team Iron had got it. You know, they were going to take the second place in the match. But you had quite the representation in this 100 breaststroke. You had Eric Pearson and Anton McKee, and although these guys are known for their 2 breaststroke, I mean they can put off some 100 breaststrokes as well. Were you satisfied with their performances in this one breast, or did you feel like there were maybe, sometimes it's particularly evident, and for example, NCAAs, when a team knows it's not going to win anymore, a lot of the athletes give up a little bit. Do you feel like that happened, or were you satisfied with the performance of Eric and Anton, 58.3 and 57.7?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't, and they weren't satisfied necessarily. Eric's a little bit faster than that. He really is a pure 200 breaststroker. So he, if he's 5th, 6th, or 7th place, that was going to be fine. Anton basically started to run out of gas. There's no question, and he even said that he was 56 low in the first meet. He said he tapered 4 weeks for the first race. I mean, he was in good shape. He'd been training really hard all summer. And he said, I am here to make a move in my career. And boy, he made that jump, right? With those times in the 200 breaststroke and even his 100 breast. But he started to run out of gas. His 200 was a bit slower. His 100's over a second slower than what he did in the previous contest just 2 days earlier. So I think he was A, not recovering maybe as well. And B, he was just plain running out of conditioning. He gave everything he had. I don't think he was intimidated. He likes to race these big guys, and he just didn't have a lot in the tank. And so he was disappointed. We were disappointed, and it just kind of was coming home to roost on him. But you know what? He made a giant career jump. I think we mentioned this last time, Ivan, that, he had been out of swimming for 2 years. He was working on Wall Street in financial industry and decided he missed swimming so much. So he came back and went down to swim with Sergio Lopez, and they really hit the same mindset together, and his career's jumped forward. And people know who Anton McKee is now. It's kind of nice.
Thank you, Byron. And what do you do as a coach? Because after probably an unsatisfying performance from both Eric and Anton, how do you get them motivated for the upcoming skins as a coach? What do you say?
Yeah, because it was going to be a breaststroke for the men. Exactly. Right. I mean, Eric knows that he's probably never going to make it through the first round. And Anton knows he doesn't have the speed of the top 2 guys, Jovanovic and Sakci. So he basically was trying to sneak his way into the final if he possibly could, get through the first round, I should say. And then probably wasn't going to be able to make it into the final. So there's a lot of pride on the line. You know what it's like, Ivan, and everybody else on the call. Like, they're not, that's one bad race, but now maybe I can find my 50 speed. And that's exactly what he tried to do. So
that's exactly what he did. He made it to the second round quite successfully.
Yeah, he did. And he knew that. And then, it was almost even a smile on his face when he got eliminated in the semifinal. He just comes back and he goes, I wasn't beating those other 2 guys, right? He said, so I did my job. I got into the semifinal, and I'm pleased with it. So.
Yeah, right. Definitely. If it was anyone else, maybe it could have been a different game, but you have 2 monsters in Ilya and Emre.
In talking about them, I mean, can Ilya Shimanovic, in my opinion, was one of the most consistent swimmers during the entire season. I mean, swimming a bunch of 25s in the 50, 55, 56 lows in the 100 breaststroke, even in the 200 breaststroke, swimming 203. And as Byron mentioned before, after the ISL finished and went to his national championships, he broke his national record in the 2 breaststroke with a 202, which is a very decent time considering that he's a true sprint breaststroke specialist. But how was this mentally in favor of Ilya Shimanovic defeating Emre Sakci, who was on fire on the previous matches? What did you see on Ilya Shimanovic's face after that victory?
Okay, just like all of the rivalries that we talk about, this is one of them actually shaping right now. Now Ilya training in almost the same kind of environment, and I would have almost the same things to say about Ilya and his coach Elena, just like Anastasia and Olga. So they're very precise, and they do a lot of meticulous work, and they get stuff done. And these guys actually are, again, very professional. Each event for him is very specific, with the stroke counts, stroke rates, the walls, the turns, and everything. Like, he's actually very much on top of it. And Emre, because he's from Turkey and I know him from here as well, I mean, this was his big opportunity to shine up. And he did a magnificent job at it. And I think, again, both Emre, Ilya, and Adam at some point, and all of these guys will actually keep pushing each other up to a very, very good times, because Emre was, I think, short about 400ths of a second on the 50 world record. And Ilya broke the world record, but Adam actually was faster than him. So Adam actually got the world record in the 100 breast. And then when they're back home, Ilya gets the world record. So again, the competition brings up good times, and these three will actually keep it going that way for a while, I think.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that Emre and the Turkey aspect. I mean, after the ISL, especially that you are now in Turkey, how did you feel that the people think about Emre? Were they watching ISL, and how they receive, and how's the media there in Turkey considering the season that Emre had?
Yeah. Everybody has been watching ISL. It's been huge for the swimming world. It's been huge for the sports generally, and especially in Turkey, dude. With Emre, coming up like this, and inside of a pack of swimmers, at this elite level, almost breaking the world records, getting a couple of European records. It made a big splash, really. And, this type of stuff for a country like Turkey, I mean, I know that we're progressing in swimming for the last 2, 3 years, 4 years, maybe now. Emre has been one of the guys that's actually excelling in that, and pulling up the whole swimming of Turkey up, because everything becomes doable as soon as somebody does it from your hometown. And if somebody can actually do it, then, kids actually look up to them and start thinking, okay, I can do better. I can do that. I can beat that guy. Or it's a new thing. And now everybody's dreaming about, swimming in one of the teams in ISL from Turkey. So, I mean, there's nothing but just benefits out of this. So it's been a big thing, of course. And we're really thankful, as the whole swimming world of Turkey, country, really. We're happy that, Emre actually gave us all this for pretty much the whole swimming community. So we're happy. We're thankful, really.
Thank you, Can. And Dorina, a quick question before we head into the skins. What was the mental state of Emre after this 100 meters breaststroke? Was he at all frustrated by his defeat from Ilya Shimanovic, or was he sort of, all right, bring on the skins, here comes payback?
I'm sure that he was already focusing on the skins, but I believe this was his first time under 56. Actually, he improved from 56.6. So, if you break your best time, improve your best time by 0.6 of a second, I don't think you can be disappointed. It was a great battle between the two of them. I'm sure he wanted to beat Ilya very badly, because after, putting up good times, the next step is beating big guys. That's how it goes. So, which he did the next match. Let me add that. So, but it was just a great battle. I think his mind was already on the skins. He swam a great time, a big best time. So I think that set him up very nicely for the skins. I don't think he was too upset.
Thank you, Dorina. And with that, let's head into the skins. And first up, we have the women's 50 freestyle skins. And first of all, Can, you were the people who decided for the skins. And when were you sold on doing it freestyle? Because it seems like you have quite a bit of space to play around. And to be honest with you, in terms of points, it seemed like fly would have been a better shot for you almost. But you might disagree with me. Actually,
no, it's not a disagreement. But again, there was this one thing about, Sarah just rested the last match and only doing the 50 on this one. And skins would have been in free for Sarah, would be the strong point. And we were lucky
of course.
because Fem was that. Yeah. So
The
Fem
back
was
injury
actually,
affects you more in the fly. Yeah.
yeah.
makes sense.
So that actually made a lot more sense to choose the freestyle skins for girls. So for the women's, I mean, we had no question but going with the 50 free at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was already decided at the beginning, as Sarah was going into racing just only 50 events, and it was there already.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Ken, you had Femke, Heemskerk, and Sara Sjöström swim for you on this 50 free skins, and both of them did great. Femke 23.93, 24.55, but Sarah 23.80, 24.00,
Yeah.
and then her last 50 was her fastest, 23.72.
Yeah.
Does this mean Sarah sort of took a chill in the first two 50s, or is Sarah just capable of going all out back to back 3 times with that rest she was receiving?
Okay, she's a talented woman, and she has very good control of what she's doing, and she has very good control of the field. She's very, very aware of what's going on around her, and she knows herself. After all these years of high level swimming, she knows her body pretty well. And to me, I believe there's a little bit of both. She can do back-to-back maximum swims, but also she has very good control. So I'm 100% sure she used a little bit of that and a little bit of that for the skins, because I mean, she's done the skins before. She lost the skins before. So she wanted to get this and she just went for it.
Ken, thank you.
Definitely.
And I have a very big question to you as a coach. How would you analyze the decision of Sarah to warm down in butterfly between races rounds 2 and 3?
She just enjoys it. It's somewhat.
Was that a flex on Ranomi at all?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both again. You want to, sometimes we all seen Rocky movies, man. You get beat up, fall down, get back up, or like sometimes you like the pain. It's just something like that. I mean, swimming at this level, this fast, I mean, doing all these maximum efforts, that's a beating. And you need to get up from it. And sometimes the better idea to get up from it is to hurt yourself a little bit more, I guess. So
Yeah, fair
psychological thing. Yeah.
Definitely.
But watching this was absolutely hilarious. Seeing Enzo sort of run up with a chair, ready to support Sarah, and Sarah's like, "No, let me just warm down, fly."
Yeah.
It was quite funny to see.
Yeah.
And also talking about the skins races, Dorina, I mean, both of your swimmers made it to after the first round, and after the second round, only Ranomi did, who got into that final round and was defeated by Sarah. But talking about the training for the skins races, how was the training between Melanie and Ranomi leading into these skins races, and also about that rivalry between Sarah and Ranomi? How much did you think that play in the mental aspect for Ranomi?
I think we discussed that before. Between Ranomi and Sarah, and if you look at the results, I think the whole all the 3 rounds went as expected, pretty much. For us, the clear goal was to get through, for Melanie to get through the first round, and obviously for Ranomi to get to the last round and potentially beat Sarah. But again, we've seen during the season that Sarah was always just a little bit better, a little bit faster than Ranomi. So we were, again, strong field. So for Melanie to go through the first round, we were super happy, and to Ranomi to get to the third one. I mean, I talked about Melanie beforehand, how she's such a pure sprinter. I mean, you should have seen her after the second round, like 30 minutes after that second 50 free, she was hurting really badly. She could barely walk. For her, again, swimming 2 50s in 3 minutes all out, she was just, man, she gave it all out. So, and in terms of Ranomi and Sarah, just went out there, did their best, and again, super impressive from Sarah. I agree with all of you guys.
And I
Yeah.
think,
Thank you,
I think the
Dorina.
one
And-
thing,
Go
I
ahead,
think
Byron.
okay, yeah, I think the one thing we're also missing is that, I mean, I was stunned how fast Sarah went on that final. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. But she's done this thing so many times, right? 6 times last year. She would have done the skins because it was always freestyle last year. And then she's done it a bunch, this time. So she knows how to do it. And I felt that she really backed off in the first one. The first 50, I thought she was so controlled and so easy. And that saved her up for the last one. I mean, you look at all the other skins, nobody goes faster on the third one than they do on the first one. I mean, it's unheard of. She looks so strong.
Except for Emre Sakci.
Yes, and one other one. You're right. So yeah, but again, you could watch him how easy he was going in the first round when he did that. So, and the other thing was, remember, Sarah had the meet off the weekend before, or the meet before, right? So she was a bit rested there and didn't go the 4x1 free and stuff like that. So she didn't quite have her normal hard routine. So she would have been a little bit more prepared and had a little bit more in the tank. Not to take anything away from Ranomi or anything, but or from Sarah herself, but she did have a few things going in her favor for this meet, and not the least of which is she's one hell of a talent. I mean, it was an impressive swim.
Yeah,
Thank you,
and
Byron.
Byron, I wanted to ask you a quick question to you. You mentioned before that in the butterfly, talking about the men, that's going to be one of your main focus in the draft. But what about in the women's freestyle? I mean, I know you had a lot of good assets there, but in also knowing that you're from Canada and that the Canadian women are very strong on freestyle, how is your first pick about the women going to be?
Wouldn't you like to know? No.
Hey, if that's confidential information, we'll back off.
That's right. We felt that, Michelle Coleman was a real big addition for us. She ran out of gas a little bit during the meet, and she was hard on herself. She felt she, wasn't doing as well as she could. She started out great, going under 54 for the 50 in our first meet, but she wasn't quite able to hang on to it. So she'll be one of our main people. And yes, we'd like another sprinter, but the way it works, I mean, it's obviously, as Dorina's even hinted, it's a very complex situation when you're trying to draft people and pick people and where to go at the strengths and weaknesses. There aren't a lot of people out there that are going to be able to beat Sarah, Ranomi, Melanie, Michelle Coleman. I mean, those people are so fast, or even Siobhan Hohi, so that if you're going to get somebody who's going to be close but still finish 5th or 6th, then you might not want to draft them with your first pick or your early pick. You might want to get somebody in another stroke or another event. So it's going to take some real serious mathematics to figure out what the advantage is. If there was somebody out there going 23 flat in the women's side, they'd be my first pick. But there's nobody really right now that I can see that's going to be able to beat those top 3, 4, 5 women, in which case, you're not going to spend your first draft pick on a number 6 or number 7 place swimmer.
Byron, there's an interesting swimmer from Russia right now. She's we would call her on the older side of swimmers, but she was at 23 mid in the short course meters, and she was a 52 mid in the 100 freestyle. So that could be a possibility, but I don't know if she is how willing she is to swim for the ISL, considering she is a member of the Russian national team. But that could be an opportunity for you.
Okay, but don't tell anybody else, okay?
No. Hey, Dorina, Can, you heard nothing?
But Byron, we actually have a fan question to you, and we had a couple of fans ask these questions. Fans seem to be quite of a high, how would I say this? Let's rephrase this. The fans really admire your swimmers underwaters and their kick. And they're wondering what are the kick sets you do and what is the underwater work you do in order to achieve this, especially from swimmers like Kylie Masse.
Well, I mean, it's a great question, because I would argue that Kylie's underwater work isn't actually as good as a couple of the other athletes, like Olivia Smoliga, who's got the world class, probably the best underwater kick around. And but you can always get better, is the point, right? Like, even when Kylie was the world champion, we felt that her weakness still was that she could be even better off the walls. So I find that coaches have a tendency not to work on kicking in workouts as much. Maybe a lot of coaches do, but a lot of coaches don't spend as much time, or they do a lot of long kicking. And so what I've tried to incorporate in our workouts now, a lot of the times now in the last sort of 18 months or 2 years, is a lot of fast breakout kicking. And I'm not just talking, 10, 25s and go home. We're talking about a lot of them, 20 of them, maybe even more than that. And constantly working on that breakout so that your legs are used to doing it, and trying to do them in succession so that anybody can do 11 kicks on the breakout on the start, but it's the third turn that you've got to be able to have those legs and be able to have them support. And even the same thing on the third 50 of a long course 200-meter backstroke, which Kylie's still working on getting better at and staying underwater longer. I think Michael Phelps started that whole trend and of being able to come off that last turn with extra kicks underwater. And now I think you've got to spend a little more time kicking. I've heard some coaches spend 30% of every workout meters kicking, and I'm not quite that. I don't quite have that kind of courage, but I'd like to sort of move in that direction.
Thank you, Byron. So, advice for the young swimmers would be focus on fast kicking and focus on hammering these underwaters, no matter how tired you are. Right? It's not only the first underwater; it's all the underwaters that matters. Thank you, Byron.
Absolutely, yeah. Kick sets drive coaches crazy because the kids have a tendency to talk and not work so hard. So sometimes just focusing on shorter kicks and make them harder. If the kids won't maintain it over a longer distance, then at least you're going to get some good work done.
Just shorten the intervals and the discussions will stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you, Can. Thank you, Byron. And with that, let's move to the next event, the male 50 breaststroke skins. And my first question goes to you, Can. You had Felipe Lima and Ilya Shimanovic. And with any other event, I would say Ilya Shimanovic is the heavy favorite here. He has unparalleled speed, and he is the only real person who can defeat Emre here. But on another point, Felipe Lima can drop some very fast 50 breaststrokes. And it seemed to me like he didn't quite have it in him this season. The 100 was there, but the 50 not quite. How so? Why?
Again, it's a rough year. And, when you're talking about Felipe Lima, he's also 35. And he's actually, when you begin coaching, you go into all these courses and stuff. One of the subjects is long-term athlete development. He's like the perfect example of it. So to me, Felipe, of course, with the experience and everything, being match 7, he was tired. We know that. And with that kind of age, you need your rest and everything. And again, being a sprinter, we already talked about it. But the amazing thing here for us was, after the 100 breast, coming out for the skins, Felipe coming out and passing the first round after the 100 breast wasn't much expected. And him doing it actually changed the whole course of the skins for us. A lot of people actually noticed it. Some didn't. But it was a great choice and great, really team management, I think, on James and Tom actually deciding to go with 50 breaststroke skins because it was risky. We knew that there was a chance to lose it to Emre when we were talking about the Energy Standard team. And but still, because he was actually very close to the world record, everybody wanted to give him another shot at it. And so that was very nice and I think very noble. But at the end, it turned out very well for us because after all, we came out with like 38 points out of the skins, even though Emre won the skins. So actually the team benefited more because Felipe, at this age, with all this tiredness and everything, he stepped up and went into the second round. So that was already a big thing. So we were really happy with it. So Felipe, I would say, congrats for him for all throughout the way because, again, he's not young.
No, of course. And actually, Ilya Shimanovic ended up earning more points than Emre Sakci, despite Emre Sakci winning because of that huge jackpot on the first round.
Yeah. That's, again, that's sometimes, every game has its rules. And this year with the jackpots and everything, and with the skins being able to decide on what to do, sometimes it might be if you're able to jackpot the field on the first part of the skins, you just go out and you have to jackpot them because that way you might actually score more points instead of keeping yourself or saving yourself for the last one. I mean, of course, I mean, winning the final round, prestige and everything, but, you know, going after the points, again, that's the decision and the strategy of the team and the athlete. So,
Yeah,
So you
definitely.
before the event, you told Ilya, all right, Ilya, you have to go all out on this first 50, or was this his own decision?
not really. Yeah, he just wanted to go.
Okay,
He
fair
likes
enough.
going fast. He's one of those athletes, just, you know, as again, the more he goes fast, I mean, he gets faster normally. But, you know, after the 100 breast, you know, winning because it's a relief to win the 100 breast against Emre, of course, for him. And now a little while after doing the skins, it's not easy. So it's, I mean, amazing job by Emre to actually take care of the 100. Drop almost a second, coming about 0.2 seconds off of the 100 breaststroke world record, and then doing 350s and finishing off with a 25.5 on the skins in 3 minutes, 350s. That is, I mean, amazing job.
Yeah, and actually the same time that Ilya did on the first round was the time with the one that Emre came out with the victory on the third round. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's impressive. And actually talking about that, Dorina, I mean, how can you tell Emre when he has achieved such a great season to motivate him? What do you think it's gonna take to keep Emre saying, okay, Emre, this was one of your breakout years, let's say that, but nowadays you are one of the main favorites. Did you think that into the next season, that pressure that Emre is going to carry on his shoulders is going to affect his performances? Because during this season, let's be honest, after the second match, he was not the favorite to take those breaststrokes victories. It was Adam Peaty, maybe even Ilya Shimanovic and the other swimmers there.
To be honest, it's, you know, now he's back in Turkey and with his amazing coach Turker, and really all kudos to them, because he was there. His coach was here in Budapest for the whole time, so they were working together, and they did obviously an amazing job improving throughout the season and making sure that after the 100 breaststroke they had enough for all 3 rounds of the skins. So it really is all them, you know, all the work they've done together, and the great relationship they have together. In terms of motivation, for me, it seemed, you know, getting to know Emre, this was the first time I met him, you know, the first day they got to Budapest. And as I got to know him, he seemed more motivated at the end. So he didn't seem like he was satisfied with his results. I think this was just a first taste of success for him. And maybe John knows this more, that he knows that he still has a lot to go. This was, I think, just a big motivation boost for him, a proof that he can do it. He can be there. He can beat these big guys, you know, starting from Caleb. I mean, almost breaking the world record. But I think and I hope he knows he still has a long way to go, and a lot of success to reach. So I hope he will be even more motivated next season.
For sure. And Dorina, one more question regarding Emre. During these skins, almost all athletes prioritize recovery. But Emre, and this wasn't the only skins race he did it, he would run up to your team box, he would chat with you guys, he always had a huge grin on his face. It seemed like he was having the time of his life every time he swam those skins. Can you tell me a little bit more about his mindset? Like how do you do this? Because skins is a painful event to swim.
Yeah, I agree, and I was just thinking of that too. You know, I was just remembering back between the rounds, he was smiling into the camera, you know, playing around, talking to his coach, waving at the box. So he was just so playful, and you could see that the pressure was not there, you know, and that's one of the reasons why I think he performed so well. And that's what we talked about, the young athletes. You know, you don't have the pressure. You just have fun, and a lot of times that's what makes you even more successful and faster. That you you just focus on having fun, and the results will come. And that's why even with the more successful swimmers, we get to the point where the only advice you have to them is to have fun, because you know that having fun translates to success and fast times in the pool. And I think, and he just has that naturally, probably, and I hope he stays with it, because it looks like it works for him.
Thank you, Dorina. And this about concludes our match analysis. Energy Standard ended up taking the W with 613 points. Team Iron got second with 448 points. Toronto Titans got third, 391 points. And DC Tridents got fourth with 256 points. Before we finish this off, there is still a couple of questions from the athletes, from the fans, that are dedicated to all of you at once. And the two questions are, number one, what is your best memory from the ISL, from the bubble 2020? Byron, do you want to start?
Okay, I'm thinking. I think it was probably our women's 4x1 medley relay when we beat Energy Standard, the huge favorites, because it was our second meet, and it was our critical meet. It's a meet that we had said all along that we had to finish high in if we were going to advance to the playoffs. So, and the women all had good splits. Kylie Moss led off faster than she had been in the individual events the week before. So I think that set us up and gave us a real nice momentum. Of course, we got to pick the skins, which we ended up getting a lot of points in as well. So I'd say that was probably the highlight for our team in terms of performance.
All right. Thank you, Byron. Dorina, what about you? And by the way, my favorite moment from the ISL was this skin race right here from Emre. This was by far my highlight. I loved every second of it.
I'm glad. Yeah, impossible question, to be honest. Impossible to answer. A lot of great moments in the box. Our second days were always magical. We always struggle on the first day, and we just came back swinging on the second one. So as I mentioned earlier, the 1-2 finishes, I think those were the most special, and the skins win.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Melanie, Ranomi, Ida, and Jenna, and Emre on the skins, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. John, what about for you?
Just like Dorina, there's so many highlights, really. I cannot just call one of them. Just to summarize, I'm so happy that, my countrymen, at least Emre and Türker, actually got to this level. I also have my fingers crossed that they can actually keep this going. For Energy Standard, I am so happy that Mehdi Bani came out. That I cannot forget, and she kept it going. She had nothing to lose. Siobhan Hoagie going crazy, maybe 7 or 8 times a 51-second 100 free. That's something, really. And what a finish on the final. Other than that, of course, Sarah, Femke, amazing swims, even post-COVID. And the last thing I cannot forget is the 200 butterfly last 25 of Chad against Tom Shields.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was, maybe it's just a sentimental thing, the 200 fly for me, but like that last 25, I don't even know how somebody can do that last 25, really.
And especially against Tom, the scientist of swimming, the guy who has everything counted down to the stroke, to the kick.
That was crazy.
It's just superhuman. For me, it's superhuman. Like it's something. It's willpower. Something like it's not possible, really.
And let me ask you this question: If you don't know which was the most exciting moment during the ISL bubble for you, Tom or Kine, and also Byron, you can answer this. What is the best learning experience that you are gonna take from this month that you spent in Budapest and you are going to use in the next season of ISL or during your daily life as a swimmer coach or as a person?
I'll say that I'm going to work on streamlining in breaststroke, watching Marco Kosh and even our swimmer Anton you know, one stroke on the first 25. I mean,
Marco Koolhaas up there.
yeah, Marco. I mean, watching these guys from breaststroke, it's a whole new breaststroke now where you got to have that efficiency. You can't dive way down underneath the water. But I mean, anyway, that's, to me, that was the number one sort of new trend, if I wanted to call it that. The length and the distance per stroke in the breaststrokers in the 200, not necessarily the 50, but the 50, I would argue it's the exact reverse of taking a million strokes and turning over very quickly with short little narrow kicks in the sprint, but in unbelievably long ones in the 200.
What about for you, Can, in Dorina?
For me, I would actually definitely, I'm already started applying it actually here at home. The only thing that I saw all throughout the ISL was that everybody was happy. The athletes training together. I mean, Dorina would know, you know, sometimes we actually got into training pool together, like we were actually on different pools, but we could see each other. Having those team practices, all these guys having fun all throughout the practices, even the racing part, the boxes, the cheering, and everything was just about everybody having fun. And, you know, sometimes you get tense throughout competitions or throughout the season because it's a demanding job. That's like the one thing that I actually started going with. Like, I'm just trying to get all of the athletes just stay happy. Because like even some fun plays or whatever, like during practices, during races, everything is just about happiness. So everybody was happy to be there. Everybody was happy to be alive and racing. So basically, I think that was the key for me.
Thank you, Ken. And Dorina, for you?
Learning experience. That was the question.
Yeah. What was the one thing you picked up that you will implement in the further seasons, or maybe in the preparation for the season?
Probably the one thing and the most important thing is in terms of recruiting. You know, we made from last season to this season, we made a lot of improvements. Last season, we were very strong on the longer events and weak on the shorter ones. This season we clearly managed to improve on the sprints, but our relays were still lacking, and I still see that as a huge weakness. So I don't know yet how, but somehow we'll try to manage the recruiting that our relays are a bit more competitive in this field. Again, it's not easy. Byron probably knows that to put together a team where there's no gaps in the lineup, it's almost impossible. But because the relays, what I saw, you know, it's not just the points. There's a huge value in it because you have 2 teams in each relay, so 8 people from your team, and it just adds so much to the team's spirit, really. To have those relays perform well. So that will be a big focus for me to make sure that we improve those relays.
Thank you, Dorina. And Ken, I'm so surprised you didn't mention as part of the learning experience to hire a counter for next season for Danas Rapsis. that should be a point of focus for you guys. It's like a 6-second difference in a 400 freestyle. It's quite significant.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to give
right.
you too much about it, but I couldn't not mention this. It happened this match. But I believe the last questions from the fans, I'll be able to answer it, and it is: do you have to be graduated to swim at the ISL? The short answer is yes, if you're part of the NCAA system. If you're studying anywhere else, you're fine. But if you're part of the NCAA system, then you have to graduate first before you can take part at the ISL. That is true. And that about concludes our match analysis. Thank you so much for making it here, Dorina, Can, Byron. This was a long podcast, but it was very entertaining for me, and I hope it was entertaining for you also.
Thank you very much, guys. A lot of
Excellent.
information came from this. Thank you.
And to all of the fans
Thank you,
watching,
guys.
we will have our next podcast happening this Tuesday. Please tune in, and thank you so much for watching.